I mean, this room we're standing in right now was kind of where I found out that I wasn't going to be a part of the team anymore. So
Playoff win compared to your first one.
pretty good.
After helping restore the Cleveland Browns to relevance, Baker Mayfield was cast aside. When the Browns decided to go all in on Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield became the odd man out. With a new starter in town, the former #1 overall pick was unceremoniously discarded from a city that loved him and an organization whose reputation he helped restore. He jumped from team to team and it began to look like he would be relegated to a journeyman for the rest of his career. But this season, Baker Mayfield's standing in the NFL changed dramatically. After winning the starting job in Tampa Bay, Baker took on the challenge of replacing one of the greatest, if not the greatest football player ever. While far from perfect, he helped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers exceed expectations, claiming a division title before engineering a dominant playoff victory. Even without a Super Bowl, Baker has rehabilitated his reputation around the league and may have snatched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback job for the foreseeable future. Or has he? Before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We're trying to 900K subscribers and we're really close. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! We made $1,100 off of a $20 entry on Prize Picks. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone that followed these picks on my Instagram story. And the best feeling is the amount of people that made money as a result of this. I mean, bam, 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 bam! My DMs were flooded, so the best part for me was seeing you guys make money as well. But we're not done yet. If you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, use my promo code microphone to double your deposit up until $100 on Prize Picks. And I give away my picks on a daily basis for free on my Instagram story and now my Snapchat story. We're having so much fun doing this. I'm so happy that I made you guys some money. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? When the Cleveland Browns drafted Baker Mayfield with the first pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, they believed their quarterback savior had arrived. Coming off of a Heisman Trophy season at Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield gave the quarterback-starved Cleveland Browns a chance to move past their 0-16 season. And he didn't begin the season as the starter, but it didn't take long for him to deliver his first legendary NFL moment. Replacing the injured Tyrod Taylor, Mayfield helped the Browns win their first game in 635 games with a Thursday night win over the New York Jets. After Hugh Jackson was fired mid-season and replaced by Greg Williams, Baker Mayfield surged as the full-time starter, breaking the rookie touchdown record with 27 touchdowns despite only playing in 14 games. After finishing with 7 wins, more than their previous 3 seasons combined, the Browns believed that they had found their guy. They made interim offensive coordinator Freddie Kitchens their new head coach and swung a blockbuster trade for Odell Beckham Jr. to capitalize on their prime opportunity to contend while Baker played on his rookie scale contract. But Baker's sophomore season would be a disaster. He threw nearly as many touchdowns as interceptions, while Freddie Kitchens proved to be way out of his depths as the head coach. After a disappointing 6-10 season, the Cleveland Browns fired Freddie Kitchens before hiring Kevin Stefanski as Baker Mayfield's 4th head coach in just his 3rd season. He had a shaky start with some duds during the middle of the season, but Baker would surge down the stretch. Over the last 6 games, Mayfield threw 11 touchdown passes with only 1 interception. Baker was efficient all season with 26 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions as Cleveland's offense carried them to their first playoff berth in 18 years. For the cherry on top, the Cleveland Browns pounded their longtime division bullies, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round for their first playoff win since 1994. Baker Mayfield was crisp all night with 263 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and although they'd lose in the next round to Kansas City, the Cleveland Browns had officially been reborn in Baker Mayfield's image. It was a no-brainer move to pick up his 5th-year option as the team looked to keep the good times rolling in 2021, but that decision ended up costing the Browns in the future as the season that followed became a nightmare for all involved. Baker Mayfield's numbers regressed across the board, as did the Browns' offense. Completed only 20 passes in a game 5 times all season in a year where he was plagued by a torn labrum and shoulder fracture that he suffered early in the season. Baker that had helped carry the team in the playoffs looked like he had vanished, and in typical Baker Mayfield fashion, he refused to sit out games, even if that meant the Cleveland Browns were getting a worse version of him. Cleveland Cleveland felt like they had a championship contending roster, especially with an improving defense where the team had been able to commit more resources to their quarterback on a rookie scale deal. But now that his fully guaranteed 5th-year option was about to come up, the Cleveland Browns felt that an upgrade was needed. They met with Deshaun Watson in March of that offseason, after which Baker posted a thank you message to Browns fans and an apparent goodbye. The Browns were told that they were out of the running for Watson, but it was already too late. Baker Mayfield had already requested a trade, something the team reportedly wasn't willing to accommodate at the time. But after offering Deshaun Watson a deal that he couldn't refuse, which was a 5-year, $230 million contract, Cleveland swung the trade for Watson, leaving Baker as the odd man out. Next month on a podcast, Baker Mayfield aired his frustrations with the organization much more publicly.
No, I feel disrespected, 100%. Because I was told one thing and they completely did another. 4 different head coaches in 4 years, bunch of different coordinators. Talk about the highs. They always come back.
With virtually no leverage, the Browns had to wait months until Carolina finally agreed to agree Baker Mayfield for a conditional mid-round pick while the Browns paid most of Baker's salary. And this would begin Baker Mayfield's season from hell. Because after this season, it looked like Baker would have no prospects at all whatsoever. In Carolina, Mayfield was thrown into a battle for the starting QB spot along with fellow 2018 first-round pick Sam Darnold. While the competition extended through the preseason, Baker would eventually win the starting job. But Baker's time in Carolina was marred by similar problems as he had in Cleveland. One of the biggest question marks from the draft was his height, which contributed to Baker consistently having his passes batted down at the line of scrimmage. Beginning with a Week 1 loss to his former team, Baker mostly struggled through the first 5 games of the season. After a 1-5 start, Carolina fired head coach Matt Rule, replacing him with Steve Wilkes in the interim. That same day, it was reported that Baker Mayfield would miss multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. He came back to play a half once he was healthy before he put up another lackluster performance in what would turn out to be his last game with the Carolina Panthers. Carolina benched him in favor of Sam Darnold in late November before they cut Baker in early December. But it didn't take long for him to get another opportunity that would ultimately resuscitate his career. The Los Angeles Rams picked him up off of waivers just 2 days before an upcoming Thursday night game against the Raiders. With a 3-9 record and an injured Matthew Stafford, LA needed someone to help them navigate the final month of the lost season. After the opening series, Mayfield entered a game that looked like a 7th consecutive loss for the Rams. Down 13 in the 4th, Baker Mayfield helped lead a long touchdown drive to get within 6 with just over 3 minutes to go. After the defense forced a 3-and-out, Baker Mayfield led a 98-yard touchdown drive straight out of a movie to lead the Rams to an improbable victory. Just look at this win probability chart. His primetime heroics earned him the starting job the rest of the way, and while he mixed in some subpar outings, he had another strong game in a Christmas victory over the Denver Broncos. Although Matthew Stafford's return after the season made Baker Mayfield expendable in LA, he was back on the market with a chance at a clean slate. With Tom Brady retired for good, Tampa Bay came calling with a chance to compete for a starting job. In March, Baker Mayfield signed a 1-year deal with the Bucs for $4 million with statistical and playoff incentives that could push his earnings up to $8.5 million. But there's no way he'd even come close to reaching that, right? After all, he wasn't guaranteed the starting job, only a chance to compete with 2021 second-round pick Kyle Trask. Plus, Tampa Bay wasn't exactly expected to be overly competitive in the wake of Tom Brady's departure. Some sportsbooks even gave the Buccaneers the lowest preseason win total in their division, and they had the 4th worst preseason Super Bowl odds. That aside, this would be Baker Mayfield's final chance. If you become the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you're not able to make it work with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Russell Gage as your wide receiver core, then clearly you're not fit to be a starting QB in the NFL. But the Buccaneers quickly challenged that notion, storming out of the gate with a 3-1 start. Mayfield had a pair of strong games during that stretch, including a 300-yard game in a Week 2 victory over the Chicago Bears and a 3-touchdown performance in a Week 4 victory over the division rival New Orleans Saints. But after their bye week, the Bucs hit some rough waters. They failed to score 20 points in each of their next 3 games, including a last-second field goal loss at home to the division rival Atlanta Falcons, and missed a Hail Mary against the Buffalo Bills. The offense finally got back on track in Week 9 against Houston, with Baker Mayfield throwing for 265 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead score with just 46 seconds left. CJ Stroud capped an all-time rookie performance by throwing his 5th touchdown pass with 6 seconds left to send Tampa Bay to their 4th straight loss. The Bucs would rebound with a victory over the Tennessee Titans as Baker Mayfield passed for 278 yards and a pair of touchdowns, but the Bucs followed that up with losses to the San Francisco 49ers and Indianapolis Colts, during which Baker Mayfield took a combined 10 sacks. 6 losses in 7 games plummeted Tampa Bay's record to 4-7, with the playoffs seemingly far away. But a pair of division games would help spark a remarkable turnaround. While Baker Mayfield didn't exactly have a good game against his old team, he did enough to help hold off Carolina thanks in part to a big game from Mike Evans. Mayfield completed less than half of his passes for the second week in a row against Atlanta, but his final completion was the game-winning touchdown to Cade Otton with 31 seconds left. As Tampa Bay escaped with another divisional win, Baker followed that up with perhaps the best game of his entire career, going 22 of 28 for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns, while posting a perfect passer rating of 158.3 as he led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a 2-touchdown victory over the Green Bay Packers. He followed that up by going 26 of 35 for 283 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in a dominant victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. All of a sudden, Tampa Bay was 8-7, riding a 4-game winning streak with a division title of victory away. Despite a 300-yard passing game with 2 touchdowns, Baker had his first 2-pick game of the season as Tampa lost to New Orleans, failing to clinch their lousy division. But they avoided fumbling it away with an ugly 9-0 road victory over the Carolina Panthers in their season finale to finish 9-8 and clinch the NFC South. Standing in the stadium Baker briefly called home, Baker reflected on the journey that got him back into the playoffs.
I mean, this room we're standing in right now was kind of where I found out that I wasn't going to be a part of the team anymore. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that bring me back here, but it's what happens when you go to a team within the division. You have memories of playing them or playing with them, and so, yeah, keep it about us. It's like I said, can't say enough about this team, the stuff that we've been through this year, and to handle it correctly and find a way to win 5 of 6 in the end to get into the playoffs and win the division.
But Baker Mayfield's comeback story wasn't finished yet. Facing Philadelphia as a home underdog, Mayfield was spectacular again, throwing for 337 passing yards and 3 touchdowns as Tampa Bay melted away what was left of the slumping Philadelphia Eagles 32-9. The defending NFC champions were thoroughly outplayed against a team that had evolved quite a bit since losing to them in Week 3. Baker had another moment of reflection after punching their ticket to the divisional round.
Playoff win compared to the first one.
Pretty good.
Is it even sweeter considering the journey you were on this past year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to directly compare, but yeah, obviously the ups and downs that I've been through in the last few years, this one's great, but like I said earlier, our sights are set for bigger goals, and so on to the next one.
So do you remember those incentives that were unlikely to hit for Baker Mayfield at the start of the season? Well, he's already been paid an additional $2.85 million for hitting most of those incentives. Even if this run doesn't result in a Super Bowl victory, Baker is officially back. Not many people can step in the void left by Tom Brady, and in many respects, outplay him in his final season. Last season, Tom Brady had 25 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions, while this season, Baker had 28 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions on far fewer attempts. He also averaged more yards per attempt, a higher quarterback rating, and a nearly identical QBR. He got the Buccaneers further in the playoffs with a better record with a similar supporting cast, resulting in his first career 4,000 passing yard season. While the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been his 4th team in the last 3 seasons, Baker has also played for 8 different head coaches across his 6-year NFL career. Time and time again, Baker has faced multiple forms of adversity. Just when it seemed like his days as a starter would be over, he put together a career year. Even though he had some rough games, it seems difficult to envision the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not bringing him back, especially after his late season surge. But even if he doesn't return to Tampa Bay, another team will come calling for him this free agency, which would officially mean that Baker Mayfield has come back, just like he's done time and time again. Let me know in the comment section down below, is Baker Mayfield the quarterback of the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.